Last Friday, I picked up my last farm share of the 2024 season from North Point Community Farm here in Plattsburgh. I filled up my bag with potatoes, carrots, watermelon radishes, Tuscan kale. It was bittersweet because, well, it's always a sad day when the farm shares wrap up for the year. But I know that the farmers who work so hard to bring my family and so many others this produce are shifting gears. They're moving into a season of storage, planning, and hopefully some well-deserved rest. We hear about what the end of harvest season looks like for North Country Farms on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management at UBS Wealth Management USA, subsidiary UBS AG, member FINRA SIPC, 1 Broad Street Plaza, Glens Falls, and the New York State Caregiving and Respite Coalition, seeking volunteers aged 55 plus to support family caregivers in northern and central New York. Visit nyscrc/AmeriCorps.org.
Hi, I'm Kara Chapman, and for David Summerstein, it's Monday, November 25th. Up first, U.S. Customs and Border Protection will now consider another site in addition to Blind Bay as the potential location of its new Border Patrol station in the Thousand Islands region. CBP wants to build a new 48,000-square-foot facility to replace the one at Wellesley Island. The agency's preference for Blind Bay has drawn opposition from local residents, environmentalists, and elected officials from both sides of the aisle. According to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's office, CBP is now looking at an option previously suggested by the community. It's known as the Cloverleaf property. It's located near the intersection of Route 12 and Interstate 81 between Alexandria Bay and Clayton. Schumer said in a statement that he looks forward to the Cloverleaf location getting full and fair consideration. He said siting of the new facility, quote, must be done in full partnership with the impacted community. In these dark, cold winter months, there are a lot of community events around the Adirondack North Country. Think community suppers, contra dances, and book clubs. A private funding group in the park wants to inspire more of them. The Adirondack Foundation is giving out $1,000 to 30 events this winter in what they're calling Kindling Awards. The goal is to benefit communities, fight isolation, and promote civic engagement. NCPR's Emily Russell spoke with Jennifer Russell from the Adirondack Foundation about the funding.
So the Kindling Awards came about as a way for us to celebrate community and bringing people together. I think, we're seeing isolation and division in our community coming off of a contentious election. We're still sort of grappling with the long-term effects of COVID and that breakdown of social cohesion in our communities. So for this time in the winter, really looking to lift up community events and the groups and people that are helping to bridge social connections, bring people together, really without an agenda, just helping to reduce isolation and build community.
Are there events in mind that you're thinking about, or have events been nominated or applied for funding yet?
Yeah, so the Kindling Awards are open to nominations from anybody for just a community event that brings people together, helps to promote building relationships and connections, and celebrating. We've received a handful of nominations so far, some related to holiday events that really are great opportunities to bring people together in the winter. Things like bowl-a-thons, and there was a snowshoe moon party happening as well. So really, it's just open to any idea in the community from a group that is organizing to bring people together.
So when I think about the Adirondack Foundation and philanthropy in general, I tend to think about big grants, $20, $50, $100,000 grants, but this is $1,000 for 30 different events. So I wonder, spending smaller dollar amounts and what kind of strategy that reflects.
Sure. So the Kindling Awards are awards. They're not grants. We're really looking to draw in non-traditional groups that would otherwise apply for our grants. So smaller clubs and associations that are really the heart and soul of many communities that don't have big, huge budgets. They're run off of volunteer spirit and passion. And so we're looking to just award and celebrate those groups and those people that are doing that work with these awards.
That was Jennifer Russell from the Adirondack Foundation speaking with Emily Russell. The Kindling Awards are open to public events anywhere in the park, as well as in Clinton and Franklin counties and the Akwesasne Mohawk Territory. The deadline to apply is December 10th. As winter creeps in across the North Country, our farmers are transitioning from the growing season to the storage season. This morning, our resident agriculture expert paid her monthly visit to the Northern Light studio to talk about what that looks like. Kitty O'Neill with the Cornell Cooperative Extension spoke with NCPR's Monica Sandreski.
Most farms are taking a big, long exhale, right, at the end of the season. Yeah. There's a few things still out there, though. There's a certain strategy for managing pastures in the latter half of the summer where you can still have some grazing potential out there. So there's still animals eating grasses and legumes out there. They aren't growing anymore, but they are good stuff. There's a few vegetable crops that people can hang on to. It's really special to have fresh spinach right now, right? Because there isn't as much of it as there was earlier in the year, maybe. But there's still things like that, some kale and some spinach. Not really actively growing, but it's still a living thing. It's a good stuff, and you can even extend those seasons a little bit further with row covers and greenhouses and high tunnels and things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. And you're saying that things like corn is already in, soybeans are in.
Yeah. There's a little bit of corn grain still out there. There's always a little bit of corn left to be picked in the snow.
Yeah. Why
and that's
that?
Okay.
That's okay.
It's okay because you have to wait until it's dry enough to combine it.
Okay.
And then sometimes you get caught in a really short window. It's dry enough, but then suddenly we have snow, and now it's, so there's a little bit of a delay. But and that's fine. It's okay out there for a while. So that's not a bad thing. Soybeans, though, don't stand up very well outside for that long if they're ready to go. The corn silage is all in. That's been in for a month at least. Hay is all in. Whether it's, so now it's in a storage condition, right? Mm-hmm. The whole idea for our human food and for livestock feed is that we've grown all these wonderful things all year. Now you have to store it in such a way that it maintains its nutritional qualities and flavor and textures and stuff well enough that we want to eat it all winter and into next year before we can start growing those things again.
Right. And you brought up that there are a few ways to do that.
We use drying. There's a lot of things we eat all the time that we have preserved with drying or dehydration. Like I always think of cereal grains, wheat, oats. Usually we have those in our homes as flour, dry beans, herbs. And the point there is if you remove enough water, now microbes don't really find that hospitable anymore. And so it lasts a lot longer. And we pickle things. We pickle corn silage and haylage for livestock.
Right, which we've talked about
We've
here
talked
on the show.
about that before, where it sort of ferments itself if it's the right moisture conditions and such. And then human food, too. We ferment cabbage to make sauerkraut, dill pickles. Sometimes we ferment them, and sometimes we sort of move that along by adding vinegar because the principle of pickling is to allow those foods to get their pH down low enough, again, that microbes don't want to exist. And then even, fermentation is even how we have cheese and yogurt and hard cider.
Yes, cider. I think it's going to mention and cider, too.
That's right. And the method that's really kind of interesting in my mind is refrigeration.
Oh, why's that?
That's one we didn't have thousands of years ago.
Right.
Well, we probably did. We probably used caves and things like that. But now we have these very elaborate refrigeration systems at every house almost. And on a commercial scale on some farms, huge refrigeration capability. But every fruit and vegetable doesn't prefer the same temperature and humidity conditions and so forth.
Right.
So there's a lot of special conditions. Potatoes and cabbages kind of have common temperature and high humidity requirements. Apples, though, are really unique in that we like to have not just the temperature and humidity right, but we manage the CO2 and oxygen content of the air, too, to really keep them stable.
That was Kitty O'Neill with the Cornell Cooperative Extension. She spoke with Northern Light host Monica Sandreski. More news all the time at ncpr.org. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Moira and Saranac Project of Saranac Lake. I'm Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.